Hiya! We had another passive tuning right before the patch, of course. So, as usual, we're gonna go over everything and a stealth hotfix to our tier. But first, of course... ready? That's the sound of water. So I just got done with the guides. I've slept maybe 7 hours in 2 days. Incredible stuff. So, yeah, let's get right into it with just some miscellaneous stuff. They tuned a bunch of embellishments and things, as well as chanting stuff. So, siphoning stiletto. This is the bad dagger that no one crafts because it's bad. 7% won't change it. The main problem with this isn't the damage, it's that it hurts you, targets randomly, and only hits one target. So, outside of like raw single target, like pure single target, it's just not great, and 7% doesn't even make it worth using. So, moving on to stuff that actually matters. Radiant Power got buffed, but this is only the damage, and most of the value from Radiant Power comes from the agility. So this does nothing. And then Authority of the Depths got a huge buff. 48% at quality 3. Which is to mean that we are playing Depths in single target, probably also in Raid. It's about 1.2% better in single target. As an overall thing, if you don't want to have like multiple daggers and stuff, you should probably still run Authority of Radiant Power over Authority of the Depths, but Depths is very good in single target now, and a actual, like, notable increase that you should probably be enchanting for. Next! Rogue got buffed. Actual patch note buffs. So, Rupture, but, like, these are very strange. I'll go over them and I'll give you my thoughts. So, Rupture got buffed by 6%. Trickster, some stuff, which, you know, doesn't affect us because we're not Trickster. And then Crimson Tempest got buffed. Arterial Precision now strikes 8 targets instead of 5. And Sudden Demise is now 15% instead of 10. So, right off the bat, these numbers are very low, and they impact stuff that isn't our main damage. And Venom is 35% of our damage in the next patch. In single target, for example. And Caustic Spatter, as we all know, is like our premier AoE ability, talent thing, debuff. So buffing bleed damage, while I personally approve and I want to see more bleed damage, this isn't cutting it. The biggest thing here is the Sudden Demise increasing bleed damage by 15% instead of 10. And even that is like not that much. Altogether, I ran the numbers, so 3% in dungeons, depending on build, right? Bleed builds are a little bit more. I have a comparison sim later. And about 0.7% in single target. So, it's just very confusing. It feels kind of aimless. Like, we're still weak. And this doesn't fix like actual things, and in Mythic Plus to begin with, our single target is the weak thing, not the AoE. The AoE is like kind of fine, and this just buffs the AoE. Doesn't really buff the single target at all. So I am kind of confused what the point of this is. Like, I'm all for a buff. I appreciate the buffs. I think they're going in the right direction, but like, you know, it's like a 100-meter sprint, and they took like a half step forward. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, we couldn't have like done a little bit more than that. I mean, subtlety got nerfed, even though it says all damage, but I mean, their foreset was really strong. So if you're interested in sub, I would suggest checking out the pins in Ravenholdt. Aleem has good notes about that, but the foreset bonus got obliterated. So sub overall got a bit of a nerf, about 5%, I think. But for us, I mean, this makes absolutely no sense. That being said, however, our tier bonus got buffed. And they didn't announce it anywhere. Nowhere in any of the notes did they announce it. The only way we could find out was because they changed it on PTR, and someone noticed, and then we had to go hunting. So after hitting a dummy for like an hour and a half, they buffed it by about 4-ish%, but it's really strange. So I think that's the next tab. I'll do this one first, but basically it's just M plus stuff. There's nothing really much to talk about here. Less weapon grip. I mean, still Authority of Radiant Power. Nothing really changed because nothing matters. Like, the buffs didn't matter. Very, very weird. We're still playing these two trinkets from the raid. They are kind of the only options. The Circlet is still best in slot, even without Skipper. Without Skipper, it's still best in slot. Yeah, I don't know. In general, you'll probably be seeing more like right side talents for Sudden Demise. You won't be seeing as much, like, you know, people experimenting with taking Sudden Demise out for Twist the Knife and all that. I don't know. It's just strange. Here's the tier set comparison that I was talking about. So in the previous 4-set bonus, right? The previous 4-set bonus was 20% chance to proc upon losing your winning streak for 4 seconds, and it increased the effect by 50%. So instead of 30% in Venom or finisher damage, right, in Venom, Rupture, Crimson Tempest, it was 45% for those 4 seconds. Now it's 10 seconds at a 66% chance. So the 4-piece went from like 0.6% to like 8.5%, 9%, like very strong. Overall, that is. Here's a comparison with numbers. These numbers are simply just with the gear. So if I say like 2 and 2 here, this is 2 pieces of old gear from the raid at 639. So it does, you know, factor in the item level drop from wearing old tier. 4-piece is good. 2 and 2 is still very good because it's in Venom buffs, but it's not Gigabyss. And the new 2-piece is just incredible. So, you know, take that as you will. New tier piece good. We got fixes. GG. The last thing I want to cover super quick, I'm kind of just speedrunning all of this. Here's a leak of trinkets right now, trinket tuning. Eye of Kazan is ridiculous. This is must play everywhere right now because it's just insanely strong. Then you have 2 on-use trinkets. House of Cards is kind of the Gigabyss one that everyone wants right now. But Signet of the Priory is actually good for us. It's about equal, maybe a little bit worse. It is less stat, but for longer. So instead of 15 seconds, it's 20 seconds. Which makes Signet of the Priory actually like pretty usable, especially since it like covers into lingering a little bit, since we have lingering. So these 2, good stuff, solid. And then you have Sephorium Pacemaker. This thing sucks, but it's the next best thing. It's like 1% worse than any of the 3 up here, and then the rest of this is absolute garbage, and we need tuning. That's kind of where we stand right now. If it's not the top 3 trinkets here, it's bad. That's kind of what it is. Like, Pacemaker is acceptable but bad, and the rest of this is just bad. So more tuning to come, hopefully. Is there anything else I want to cover as a quick aside? Yeah, so Sims are getting updated, of course. I already pushed an update for the Dry Shiv in Lingering. If you don't know what that is, previous video covers that. I then also want to do a quick reminder / awareness of another sim change that's coming, but it's not really rotational. It's just kind of knowledge. Thistle Tea macroed to Shiv is something we did after like 1105. That is now just hard-coded. There's no logic in Sims anymore to avoid the auto-proc on Tea. No logic in Sims to like do anything weird, line it up with something or another. It's like the logic is strictly macro T to Shiv, and if for some reason you don't have it up in the last 8 seconds of Kingsbane, use it in the last 8 seconds of Kingsbane. That's mostly just as like an edge case handling thing. But in general, just macro with Shiv, good to go. I also removed pooling conditions, a lot of them. So pooling is now much easier because Twist the Knife has kind of gotten rid of it. So the sim does not check for the duration or pandemic of Envenom or the stacks of Twist the Knife anymore. The only real logic, which is still incredibly minor, is that you spend energy in cooldowns. You spend energy if your Kingsbane is on cooldown but not up in the next 3 seconds, or you're above 50% energy. So, essentially, hover around 50% energy, spam in cooldowns. That's sort of the only pooling logic that remains, and it's pretty minor. Other than that, I simplified the Sims in order to get rid of a bunch of other stuff. So if numbers change a little bit from, one Sim to the next, that's because of the patch coming out soon, so we got to push some stuff. Otherwise, hopefully that was quick enough and informative enough. And I know it was a little bit scattershot, but I'm trying to keep it short. A lot of information, so it's got to be dense. If you have questions, let me know. I'll make another video when tuning hits again, probably, because it's inevitable. I mean, look at this Trinket list. It's insane. Get me a water sponsor, please. I'm a sellout.